Not again.
So first of all, it is an honor to meet you.
Thank you, and I'm glad that you asked me to be here as well. I saw your previous interviews, and it's always, you know, you have a very personal approach, I think, which isn't often the case. So
Thank you.
I'm really glad to be here.
Thank you. So my first question is, as Layers of Fear is recognized for its psychological horror exploration of deep fears and traumas, how will the new game continue in this tradition, and how these elements shape the new gameplay and narrative?
So that is a good question. So we're basing a lot of this on the originals. So you know, this is the kind of the crowning work, but the foundation for it is the first Layers of Fear and the second Layers of Fear. So we're not really trying to change anything. We're trying to build upon it. So with that psychological part, you know, a lot of it is already in there. What we've tried to do is, you know, give different perspectives, give more information to, you know, bring a bit more of, you know, why is it happening? Why is that character seeing it in this way? So to kind of give you a better feeling to the entire thing, to make it clearer. And the rest comes from the characters. So you know, the painter is a very specific character, and you know what happens around him over the story. We've left that as it was, the same for the actor. The biggest change, I would say, probably for the players, especially those that did play this before, is the final note. It's the story of the wife from the original game. So you see the same story basically, but from her point of view. And we try to, with that in mind, you know, show you that from her point of view, the same situation that, you know, painter saw her as a monster and a very, you know, weird and different situation. From her point of view, it's the other way around. You know, from her point of view, you see it differently. You see that, you know, she is locked from some places because she cannot go there. She cannot move there, or you know, that her husband, the painter, is running away. So you kind of, you know, to point to different perspectives and then get that psychological part from all of those.
Okay, so the game introduced core mechanics like the lantern. Could you provide some insight into the inspiration and the development process behind the new elements?
So the lantern on its core, so we wanted, you know, to give you basically more actions to do, more things that you can play with, to interact with the environment in more ways than we've done previously. But we've put a lot of thought to make sure that it works, that it fits with our game. So, for example, in the first part, in the artist story, the lantern is an old mining equipment that uses fire, and we did that because the wife is afraid of fire. She was in an accident involving fire, so that lantern kind of brings more to this. So this is something that she is afraid of, that is something that painter uses. And then over the course of the story as well, it's all connected because, you know, he kind of almost forces sometimes to use fire even though she is afraid of it. So that connection is in there. And for the second one, it was more of a thematic thing. So the movie, so we wanted a flashlight, but that flashlight has, you know, kind of the effects of old movies, the artifacts, the lines moving around. So we wanted to feel like it's part of the world. So giving you more interaction, but also, you know, making it part of everything else. But the main core of what it does for us, you know, when you play horror games, sometimes you don't need to do much. You just give, you know, here's a flashlight, and because you see less and you just need to focus and you are afraid that Yeah, exactly. So that kind of builds up the experience, and we try to use it in many different ways to kind of bring up the horror a bit as well. So it put you in darker rooms, and then we can kind of focus on you. So giving you a tool to to survive, basically.
To interact more.
Yeah, yeah. While not changing the core of what Layers of Fear is. So it's still not, an action horror game. It just offers you more tools, different things to do.
More ways to interact with the experience.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the visual enhancement. The visual enhancements contribute to the immersive and atmospheric experience. Could you elaborate on the specific improvements made in the game's visuals? How do these enhancements enrich the overall narrative and amplify the horror elements?
That is a good question, and a lot comes to this. So in the beginning, we know when we started the project, it was like, okay, so one of the goals was, what is Layers of Fear? How can we bring it to kind of to the day, basically? It was made in a different engine and look a certain way. So we needed to basically bring everything up. So we started, better assets, better shaders, better materials. We started using lighting. In this case, we're using Unreal 5 with Lumen. So the lighting is dynamic. But, over the course of that creation, we also, there are some challenges. So, for example, because the previous lighting wasn't always realistic, you could fake a lot more, So if you wanted to make atmosphere, you could make fake places where the darkness is different, where the light is different. And for us, like, we cannot do that anymore because it is realistic. So when the light bounces, there will be light somewhere or there will not be anything. So we needed to kind of balance that and find a different way to get where we are. So a lot of it came to the direction of what we wanted to achieve. So that the feeling is the same, even though it doesn't use the same techniques or doesn't always get there. And for the last part, what you ask, what it helped us is definitely horror experience is one thing because darkness works really well. And in the combination of the lantern, we could very easily go into total darkness because we knew you had the light on you, for example. And that kind of gives us a lot of more tools and ways to achieve that. But what it helps us is to bring out the themes of characters or chapters. So, for example, when you play and the theme is what we talked about, fire, for example, and we tell the story of what happened, what was the accident, we can with the new visuals use effects and use lighting that kind of it's more orange. There is a lot of fire. There is more candles, firelight. We kind of push that theme in more than just story. It isn't about what you read about. It's just you see it everywhere and around. And then when you go into another chapter and it's more about how their marriage was broken apart, how they couldn't talk anymore, and they just weren't on the same page. You can see that there's it's darker. A lot of things are broken, and the house kind of starts falling apart. So we can through that environment and through that lighting, kind of give you more of the atmosphere that we want to achieve, that is connected to the story that we're already telling, which wasn't always that easy before.
Okay, so what was the primary element or aspect you aimed to focus on or enhance? What do you feel was crucial to maintain in order to honor the original, yet still bring something fresh for the players?
One of the main things is to understand what players liked in the originals. And in the beginning, we've made a list of things that kind of those are the pillars of what the project is, what was the kind of the philosophy behind it, and what people liked, and those we cannot break. So they are there were things like story, the changing environments, the psychological aspect, the family, you know, things that were at the core of everything. And for those, we just, okay, so this is what it's about, and what we are doing in here is just, you know, improving the quality. Just, you know, this needs to stay. So when someone who already liked it plays this, he, you know, the story doesn't change. You know, Painter doesn't become a completely different person, and, you know, the story doesn't veer in a completely different direction. It still needs to be understandable. It still needs to be for someone that likes it. What we wanted to do there, okay, so what can we do around it to make it better? So there's, for story, for example, the chapter about the wife is like, it's the completion of the triangle. So there was already the Painter story. We saw from the inheritance, the daughter's story, but we didn't see the wife. So we wanted, okay, so this will give you a different perspective on what you already saw, for example. We've
You will see
expanded.
the full picture.
Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of the missing piece of the puzzle, basically. So we've expanded the story a bit. So maybe not to change it, but to give more context. So, for example, what there was already a situation, and we told more about what the situation was, how it happened. So, so we've added, you know, for the wife, for example, she was present in the original story, but very little. And since we've added, you know, the new chapter, then we could add more to her, like her other relationships, her familiar relationships with a friend. You know, there were already characters, so we wanted to kind of push that above. And the lantern, for example, is also, you know, how can we take what was there, still make it feel good for the player, but give them more to do, give them more tools, give more aspects to increase the horror. For the last part, I would probably say is the horror itself and how it works. So we knew that changing environments is something that people really like. So we wanted, okay, so how can we push it more? We added some more events, made some events a bit bigger, for example, than they were in the beginning, since they worked, and changed the house a bit. So when you play through this version, through this kind of, that's why I call it also a crowning experience, you still will meet the same rooms, and things will happen in them. You just will meet them in a different order, or there will be, you know, more single events that didn't happen before, or they will happen in a different place to kind of, you know, give you a different feel, and make sure that, you know, you can't just remember, okay, this was here, this was here, this was here, because then you lose the element of surprise. And in a horror experience, that's really bad. So we wanted, you know, to make sure that you can play and still be surprised by what you already know.
Layers of Fear builds on psychological horror elements of its predecessors. Can you share any new psychological elements or storytelling techniques that players can or in the new game?
The best would probably be still the wife. What we needed to do is kind of think a lot of how did she feel in those situations. What is her point of view as a different character in that. And then we've added the writer. It's an overarching character that kind of combines the stories together.
It's like a bridge between the stories.
Yeah, exactly. So for both of them, we needed to kind of, you know, find what it was. For the writer, it was probably easier because she's a new character, so we had kind of more control. For the wife, it was especially, you know, we wanted to give the feeling that, you know, that she was trapped, that she was kind of losing options and didn't see a good way out. So it wasn't about changing her. It's just, you know, there were notes, there were her. She talked on some items. So we saw that. So what we needed to do. Okay. So in this note, she talks about her feeling trapped and you know, locking the door. So you know, that little stamp. Okay. So how can we do that? And in that her part, you know, environment is very locked. There are chains everywhere that kind of block her way. And she locks those doors. So we try to get in her mind and show it from a different perspective. And because of that, that kind of feeling of tension of having to break out is a different experience than the painter, who isn't really afraid of being locked. He's just trapped in a loop. So that is a different way to tell the story, basically.
Okay, so lastly, what message or experience do you hope players will take away from Layers of Fear? Is there something specific you would like players to uncover or contemplate during their gameplay?
What Bluebird team did with the originals and what we're trying to kind of continue is to always tell a story that is personal in many ways, and also connected to people that are in tough situations. So the painter and his family breaking apart because of an accident, for example, and the struggle between obsession of work and kind of the commitment to family, and the actor with the almost imposter syndrome, and not deciding to go one way or another. Those are things that we all connect on some level, and horror is kind of the experience to maybe a safe experience to kind of go through it and think about it. So that's something that I would like to continue to kind of give those thoughts. And with what we've done and with the writer and the connection between the games is to maybe get people to think about the Layers of Fear as a single bigger universe, about that it might go deeper. There are more things to discover, and there's kind of more connections that you can do, and imagine where it can go, and imagine how those characters have similar problems in many ways, and no easy solutions.
Okay, thank you, Damien. That was all the questions. Actually, it is an honor, and you and your team did an amazing job.
Thank you. I will definitely tell them that.
Thank you very much. It was an honor, and I hope we talk again soon.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.